Hello, I'm Nobby. Welcome to my workshop. This is part 5 of the PM Research Engine build. But to start with, from the last video I made, part 4, I did ask what everyone's opinion was on whether there should be an oil hole in the top of this brass bit part of the eccentric. And that the general consensus of opinion was yes, it should have an oil hole here, because the eccentric hub is sort of revolving inside of here. So that seemed to be what everyone thought. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I think I would have done it anyway, because I was concerned that this would be a feature that could suffer some wear. I've already sort of made a bit of a start to set this up so that I could get the hole here at right angles to the hole that I drilled here to take the rod here that connects to the piston valve. I've mounted this in the chuck, and I put one of my sort of homemade thin parallels under here so I could hold that down while I lock this in the vise. So that's giving me a reasonable right angle. It's not something that's got to be that precise really, but there we are. And to set up the centre, I use the common sort of machinist trick of putting a ruler on the top with a pointer and then adjusting the X movement until this was sort of completely level. So what I've done, I've already drilled into the centre here with a spotting drill, which is obviously a lot bigger in diameter than the actual drill I'm going to drill the hole with. Oh, you can just about see the drill here. I'm drilling it the same size as the oil holes in the two parts that the flywheel shaft runs through. This is a 1/16 drill, so this being sort of considerably wider than that is giving me, if you like a little cup on the top. And then obviously I can drop some oil into here, and then as it disappears through the hole, just sort of keep topping it up until I feel there's a reasonable amount of oil that's going to float around inside. So all I've got to do now is just drill through with the 1/16 drill. I mean, sort of hardly any depth to go through. Obviously will have to sort of clean up the underside of this, but I think that's going to do the job actually. I don't take the little centre drill down much further, because I don't want to sort of have an accident with it, but I think that little depression in the top will be enough just to pop some oil in using a tiny sort of needle oil bottler to drop some oil through there. So that really completes that part. So now we can move on to look at one of the other parts of the machine up. Well, the next part I'm going to machine is this part. They call this the crank casing. The drawing only seems to indicate that you face off this side here. I've measured across these two faces, and this needs to be machined down to 375 thousandths, 3/8 of an inch. So my calculation is that you need to face off 30 thousandths from this side. There's no indication that anything needs to be faced off this side, because the surface across here doesn't come into contact with anything. After that's faced off, you need to drill and ream through here for 1/4 of an inch, the diameter of the main shaft, and what you also need to do is measure off an offset across here of what 375 thousandths again, so it's a 3/8 of an inch offset across here. So what I'll probably do is once I've faced this off, I'll just spot the centre here and then just make a measurement across of that amount. So this part here will need to be drilled to take the pin that links up to the shaft from the piston. The final thing you need to do on, I think it's this side of the boss, is to drill and tap for a grub screw. So that will be drill and tap for a 5BA grub screw on that side. So not sort of too many things to do on this. The difficult bit was actually setting this up, because as this has got a bit of draft in the boss here, it was difficult to grip this in the chuck. I've got it mounted in the 3-jaw chuck. So the way I approached it was I put a parallel in the back here, sort of tightly in the back, and then I brought the quill of the tailstock up against that to hold that tightly in position while I tighten the jaws up, which I hope is going to work, and also to check that everything is square. I put the parallel, bearing in mind this is a pretty rough surface, and on this end I've already filed off a part here which was part of the casting, so that had to be sort of filed roughly flat. So I ran the quill across and move that along here. Bring that in again, just to check that was sort of tight here with no sort of movement in it, because looking down there, to eye it doesn't look very even, but it does seem to be. The thing is though that in one process of facing this off and drilling and reaming through here, that the reamed hole should be square to this surface, because the part on the boss on the flat of the boss on the back doesn't actually touch anything. So if that was slightly out, I don't think it really matters. But I did run a clock gauge across around the surface here, and it's within about 2-3 thousandths, but sort of bearing in mind the roughness of this side of the casting. So hopefully this will machine up nicely. Well, I've taken a test cut on here. Basically, I touched off to start with, so I could set the top slide micrometer dial to 0, so that I can now measure off the 30 thousandths that I think it needs machining to. So I'm going to proceed and start machining this away very, very gently, because this feels so precariously mounted in here. I don't want to make big cuts so that this is going to move at all. Bearing in mind it is, because of the shape here, it's a bit of an interrupted cut as well. So I'll machine away. I obviously won't film it all, because as I'm going to take very, very small cuts, this will take a little while to machine down, but I'll show you just the start of it basically. So far that's machining okay. It's actually nearly cleaned up. You can see all the little pop marks in here left by the sand casting, but as this 30th hour to come off, I'm sure that's going to clean all those up, and I'll have a nice flat, smooth surface across there. But I'll bring you back when I'm sort of nearer to the depth here. Well, so far so good. It's machined up beautifully, actually. It's my first time ever machining bronze. I've never machined that before, so I'm not quite up to the 30 thousandths yet. So I'm going to try and sort of take it as best measurement I can across here. Not sure how accurate this needs to be, because this part with the grub screw is locked onto the shaft, so obviously an adjustment can be made so that everything lines up correctly to the piston. And obviously you can't get a conventional micrometer down here. I can't get my digital gauge down here either, so luckily I've got this anvil micrometer which will fit down the back here, so that I can get down the back. It doesn't really go down quite far enough, but I think this is going to give me an idea. That's it's on now, so pull that out, and let's give it another try. Make sure I've got the same reading each time. That's more like it. So I've made several measurements already, and I reckon I'm about 6 thousandths to go, which doesn't correspond exactly to the on the top slide to the micrometer scale, but it doesn't matter anyway. So if I take it down another 6 thousandths, that hopefully will bring it to the right measurement now. Give it another measurement. Actually, if I get it down in there. Another reading. I think that's okay. If anything, I'm about 1.5 thou under, so I think that's okay. I think, and I can obviously measure it again once I take this out. But of course, I've got to leave this set in position so that I can drill and ream the hole in here. But first, I'm going to spot the centre here, and then mark out the 3/8 measurement across there first. Right, well, I've put a tiny spot in the centre there, and I've blued up that side, so I'm going to use this little pointer, lock that in the centre, and then mark up the position there. I can then obviously find the centre of that part, because the little hole to drill in there for the little pin, I'm going to do that part on the milling machine. That's given me a nice scribe mark there to work from. So the next job to do would be to centre drill that a bit deeper, and then start drilling for the reamer. It's the next job. Okay, this is the reamer drill, 15/64. And now the reamer. A 1/4 inch reamer. It's got to run the lathe quite a bit slower now. Right. Hopefully it's gone all right. Well, this is the shaft that this is going to fit to. Obviously this will go in from the opposite side, but to just see how good a fit we've got. Well, it couldn't be any better than that actually. That's a really good fit in there. Excellent. So, all but for perhaps just a little bit of deburring here, that the other side I can deburr that when it comes out. I need obviously to take this sharp edge off here. I must be a bit nervous of doing that with a chamfer tool. It may work okay if the dimensions are very accurate across there. But anyway, that's sort of basically that part of the machining side finished. Obviously the next part I'll need to do is to set this up in the milling machine so that I can drill the little hole there. I've got to just find out what size yeah, actually that part's threaded, so I've got to drill and tap that part out. So yeah, so that obviously best to do that on the milling machine, I think, yeah. Anyway, well that's it for the moment. The final job on this part is drilling and tapping the hole in here for a 5BA screw. I forgot to start filming the earlier part of this, but I've set the part up in the vise. Before I did that, I used a little scribe line that I'd made across here, and then I measured up using my digital caliper to find the centre of this, and then spent ages lining this up with a little pointer. I had it mounted on, to start with, on a couple of parallels, but of course the parallels would have interfered with drilling the hole, because I would have drilled right through the parallel. I've got some sacrificial parallels which are much thinner than this, but trying to use those, because they were so thin, this part wouldn't, if you like, sort of balance on the top properly. I think what I need is some slightly taller, well, this sort of height, wider sacrificial parallels if I face a problem like this again. But anyway, I marked up the centre, and I've already drilled the hole through here. This is a 2.6 millimetre drill for the 5BA tap. So I'm going to use the chuck here to start the tap off. Just take the drill out. I'm sorry I didn't film all of this. It's getting towards the end of my day in the workshop. It's getting very dark outside now, so I was in a bit of a hurry just to finish this. What I wanted to do was get this all finished today. Anyway, let's bring the tap down, and then I can start that off into the hole. Just get it to bite. Actually, what's happened there is the parts moved down. Actually, gonna have to bear with me a moment. I just got to reposition that again. Oh, I just had to reposition that again because the pressure of putting the tap into the hole here without the parallel on this side pushed it down slightly. Obviously, the amount of pressure was a lot more pressure than the drill gave at the time. So I'll leave the parallel in just to get this sort of started into the hole. and then I can, once that's started, I think I can then move the parallel out of the way to actually tap the hole. Let's see if this works. I've got a tap wrench somewhere which I seem to have lost. But I do have two of them. If I can get this one to very, very carefully start that. I can move the that up. Probably touch the parallel now if I move that out of the way. I think I did slightly, but never mind. Just put that under the edge there just to hold it in position. I should be okay now actually. Take that out. It's quite interesting to do this part because it's the first part of the bronze cast things that I've machined, and I've not machined any bronze before, so it's quite an interesting thing to do this. Yeah. Well, yeah, I've got a thread in there. Looks all right. So that's that bit finished now. I just obviously need to just deburr the top and bottom of that. So that part's done. So it was really only facing off that surface and drilling and reaming the 1/4 inch hole there and drilling and tapping for the 5BA. So that part basically is done. So move on to the next bit now. The next job to do is to drill a hole in here for a 5BA grub screw so that you can lock this part onto the shaft. I've set this up in my other mill vise because this one has a much deeper jaw on it. The other vise I've got is about an inch deep. This is 1.5 inches. So with the V block in here, you can imagine the V block in the other one sat too high above the height of the jaws, and what was happening as I moved the V block against the part here, it was tipping the part slightly. So this is gripping it much better, and it's much sort of squarer here across the back. To line up the centre, I before I tighten this right up, I just move this from side to side to get it lined up as best as I could, and I actually used a little centre pointer in the drill chuck to line up the centre. What I did was just brought the centre pointer down sort of roughly in the centre of the 1/4 inch hole here, and then move the X movement by putting a ruler across here to get it in that sort of dead centre position. So I'm pretty well spot on in the centre there now. I'm just going to with a 2-flute end mill here, I'm just going to put a little flat on here because this part, top and bottom here, all has sort of slope to it, so that it would obviously remove easily from the sand mould. So I just want to make sure that there's a nice flat surface so that I can centre drill and drill for the tap as well, so that nothing's going to sort of skate across the surface here. So I just bring the cutter down, and we'll just make this little flat on here. Well, that looks pretty neat. So you can take the cutter out of the chuck. I'm going to put the little pointer in again so I can line this up, because I've obviously had to move the two fluted end mill out slightly, so I cleared that back surface. But what I want to do is try and get the hole as central to this part here as possible. So I probably need to move it back just slightly from that position, but I've got a nice sort of flat surface to work with here now. Well, I've got my little pointer in here, and I've just moved it back slightly so that I'm trying to sort of keep myself in the centre of this part. And take that out and put the little centre drill in. So I'm probably covering up the camera, you can't see what I'm doing. Let's get this in here. Make sure, yeah, I've got clearance behind. Okay. With the drill. Whoops. Drill. Put the right drill in, not the centre drill again. Okay, 2.6mm drill. Okay, take that out, and again, as before, I'll use the chuck to start the tap off. So here somewhere, here we are. So we have the 5BA tap. hopefully that's enough. Oops, lifting the part out, goodness. I'll make sure that's make sure before I remove that, make sure I've got the vise tightened up enough. Yep. Don't want that to happen. That's better. That could have been a disaster. So that's gone right the way through. You're looking across here, it all looks nicely aligned, so I'm quite sort of happy with that. Sorry if I'm getting my fingers in front of the camera lens. So that's that done. So I've just got to deburr it a bit, top and inside as well, and that part is completed now. Obviously I mentioned before, the grub screws I got were a little bit too long, so I need just to shorten the grub screw just to make it sort of look a bit neater. I don't want it sort of sticking up too far across here. So we can take that part out. So that's it, our little grub screw hold in there quite nicely, but in the centre there, so that's going to be lovely. Something that happened in the previous part that I showed, I think it was the last section, I had this mounted in the vise so that I could drill and tap this hole here, which takes the sort of the pin which will mount up with the lever which links up to the crosshead. Because this part has sort of a draft in all these directions here, when the part's sand moulded, when I gripped it in the vise, I noticed that on this edge here, by tightening it, I had to tighten it up quite a lot to make sure it couldn't move. It actually bruised this surface here because it was obviously only in contact with that little edge here, which well, what can you do? Can't really do much about that. But when I actually measured this up in that thickness, because when I machined it, I'd got it using the anvil micrometer. It obviously didn't give me that precise a measurement because I was only able to get the anvil sort of down, if you like, this sort of side, and I thought I was actually a fraction under, but I measured this very, very carefully, sort of out of the well, obviously it was out of the chuck on the lathe, and then I discovered that actually I was about 2/1000 over. So what I did off camera prior to doing this operation here, I mounted this back in the chuck on the lathe, and I was able to use that extra 2/1000 I had to skim that surface off again. And luckily I've removed that bruise that I put on the edge of the material. So it does look really nice now, so I'm quite pleased that I was slightly over on my measurements. I also mentioned that obviously I needed to sort of clean up all the sharp surfaces around here, I did these parts here with a file, and off camera I did take a chance on using the chamfer tool on the lathe to chamfer that edge and that edge. What I did was move the chamfering tool in very, very carefully against the surface here, and then turn that round and against that surface here. So actually, I don't know if you'll be able to see that anyway, I have got quite a nice chamfer round there and round there, and just clean that up with a file to take any sharpness away from that edge. So that part really is completed now, so I'm quite happy. So apart from just putting a little grub screw in there, obviously, but machining it to length, that's all finished now. So that's really the end of this little sequence. So I'm going to get on and decide which part I'm going to machine next, and that will be the next episode along. So thanks for joining me. It's over and out from me. Bye for now.